Everybody, welcome to the Purple Friday Show, live from the hammock. Purple Friday Show, episode 220. So we're back after obviously the Ravens lose to the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football. It was a little bit, I don't know, was where I want to say. It didn't feel as bad watching the rest of the NFL for Week 1. They realized that everybody is struggling. Everybody was struggling, especially the teams we didn't expect to struggle. However, the comments that have come out from Harbaugh and some of the players since, I think there was one recently, especially Harbaugh saying, why did they only run Derrick Henry 13 times? And, well, if you expected him to come here and run the ball 30 times a game, that's not what we brought him here for. And, looking at Lamar's stats, for the game, I think he had like 16 to 17 carries for 120 something yards rushing. And I'll just say if that's the formula going forward, I don't. That's not going to work. That's just not going to work. I could understand if Lamar gets the ball 8 times rushing like that. Justice Hill only had 1 carry for 3 yards in that game. He was brought in for mostly the passing downs to block, and it was very clear that the Chiefs figured that out because that last play of the game, pretty much they had Chris Jones rushing up the middle, and then there's Justice Hill. Lamar has made a statement after the game saying, or not the I likely play. That was a Bateman and Zay play where Zay coming across the middle. And he said, "Oh, I saw Chris Jones coming, so I was trying to protect Justice from not trying to have to block him, so he basically rushed the throw." Mm-hmm. Again, that's just not knowing what down and distance, what your personnel is like. Why don't you just have, if you're going to be that vanilla, just keep Ricard in there. If you're going to throw the football, just keep Ricard in there to block. He's 300 pounds. Keep Ricard in there to block. Mm-hmm. It forced Lamar all night. We saw, I think, after the second or third drive of the game, I think the third drive of the game, Lamar fumbled or something like that, and they lost the ball. After that, Lamar was like, "I'm not trusting this line anymore." Mm-hmm. Any kind of pressure. Lamar was not standing around in the pocket. He was not waiting for guys to get open downfield. He was like, "I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go try to win this football game." And from what I saw, especially at the end of the game, as much as look, we can all day criticize, when the big plays of the game happened, right, for Lamar. If Lamar doesn't take the game into his hands at that point, I don't think the Ravens are even close to winning this football game. Like I think the Chiefs easily win this game by 14 points. Justin Tucker misses a 50-yard field goal that now apparently he's not been good at for the last 5 or 6 tries. I think he's like 1 of 5 or 1 of 6 and over 50 yards. It's a little concerning. Especially when we consider he's supposed to be automatic, most accurate kicker in the NFL. Well, I think it's now does it the Cowboys or not Cowboys kicker or the kicker from the Steelers? I think he's now the leader in the league for most accurate kicker. But we had those things happen, and Lamar, look, he should have had likely in the corner. That was a throw. I think that I think even Ryan Clark said Lamar. It felt like somebody brought up a good point. They on one of the shows said that it was like the Tiger Woods effect, right? When you're playing golf, you're not playing against the other golfers, right? You're playing the course. But when Tiger Woods was in his prime, a lot of guys would get antsy because if they were like a couple strokes from catching Tiger, or they were a couple strokes ahead of Tiger, it's like they kind of affected their game. Like, oh, maybe I should try for this birdie or try for this eagle. But they knew Tiger was like right there. He could be, a couple points away from either taking the lead or catching them. And so a lot of times it would change how they played. And Ryan Clark made a good point where it was just like it felt like Lamar was trying to be perfect on every throw. Like instead of just going through the motions, like we saw Lamar last season make these throws. All through these games against the Lions, against the Seahawks, against the 49ers. We know Lamar can make these throws. We've seen him do it. And it's like, even the throw to Bateman and Zay, everybody was like, I was looking at Bateman like, why were you looking at Bateman on that throw? Why weren't you looking at Zay? But if I think at the same time, I think Lamar, again, was so focused on not making the bad play, like fumbling the ball, throwing interception, that he would just, freeze up, feel like he froze up a little bit. And another thing, that I really didn't realize until after I watched like the all 22s and stuff for that game was having one timeout on that possession and the last possession changed how Lamar operated. Well, at that point they had no timeouts left. I think they had no timeouts left. By burning those 2 timeouts early in the third quarter, that changed the entire aspect of how the Ravens ran that last 4 minutes of the game. If you have 3 timeouts, or even 2 timeouts, or even 8 timeout going into that last possession, it completely changes how they can call plays and how they do things. Lamar was worried about taking a sack because he's like, if I get sacked here, the game is over anyway. We lose. Mm-hmm. So Lamar's like, he's rushing the ball out. He's seeing the guys. I felt like he saw ghosts a little bit. He was getting rushed so much in that game that he was just throwing the ball out because he was so worried about getting hit, especially at the end of the game because they had no timeouts. They were too far away to run the football. They couldn't run the football, so there was 0 run plays. So the defense knew exactly what they were doing. Again, they had their opportunities, but wasting those timeouts early in the third quarter, putting your quarterback in a bad spot. Lamar, yes, could have played better, but the coaches, especially in another game that they've had over 4 or 5 months to prepare for, completely wet the bed again. And I'm sitting here, I'm watching the game outside with some friends from the neighborhood and stuff. And I told them, they aren't even Ravens fans. I told them, I feel like Harbaugh's just going to watch it waste 2 timeouts before we get to the fourth quarter. And sure enough, like clockwork, before I think 10 or 9 minutes hit, 2 timeouts were burned on defense on first downs. So they weren't even third down and shorts or whatever to try to get a right call in to stop the team. It didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. So everybody didn't play well. Roquan didn't play well. The middle linebackers were getting burnt all night by Rashee Rice over the middle. Like Andy Reid, I don't know how many times he called that play. It felt like he called that play at least 10 times. At least 10 times. Yeah. The blown coverage. Kyle Hamilton admitted today that he blew that coverage. He should have been playing back instead of playing up on the line of scrimmage, where Marlon clearly passed him off, thought Kyle was back there or something. So that whatever. But in a game where when you're playing the Chiefs that you have to play near perfect football, and the Ravens still had an opportunity to, I'll say, at least tie the game. I'm not going to say win because Harbaugh was trying to go for 2, and I don't know how that would have worked out. I have a differing opinion about going into overtime. I thought they would have been, if they went into overtime, I felt like they had a better shot because they had a momentum. I feel like they went for 2. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, I'll let you guys talk. It just feels like, again, it was supposed to be a barometer game where the Ravens that they built this team to be able to beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And he came away from that game thinking, no. You came away thinking that in 18, 19 weeks, they see them again, they're not going to beat them again. It just feels like they just got their number. And the Ravens coaching staff and everybody else, and the players included, they can't seem to play up to the level they need to play and coach the level they need to coach to in those games. Now, watch they go out the rest of the year and they win 14 straight games or something like that. They go out and clearly the best team in football, but then they got to play the Chiefs. So it feels like it's more of a, from the coach's mindset, it feels like the players come away from it like, we can't beat these guys. And it felt like Harbaugh kind of admits that to himself now too. It just feels like you can't beat them. We're literally in a situation where, as fans and as a team, where they're kind of secretly hoping that somebody else just knocks them out before we get a chance to play them. They just hope they have a bad game against somebody in the round 2 or whatever, and we don't have to play them in the AFC Championship game. That's right.
Yeah. I said, a few times, I said this week 1 game, we're gonna learn a lot about this team. And I think we learned a ton about this team on Thursday. Some good, some bad, not so good. And a lot has changed, and honestly, a lot has stayed the same as well. So just as far as just my take on how the game went, I'm not, just to say overall, I'm not too upset that we lost. I don't like the way that we lost the game. It was just one of those things where we had, a full drive opportunity to, full 4 downs really to make it in the end zone, coming down that last stretch, and we just couldn't make the play. Lamar had, multiple shots to get scores, and it came down to him finally making an amazing play, and it just didn't kind of work out in our favor at the end, just based on, the toe being out of bounds and everything like that. So it is what it is. We all saw the game. We all know how it ended. I'm not really upset about how the game ended, but let's start with what we learned. Let's start with what we really confirmed. It's not really what we learned. We confirmed that the O-line is kind of a problem. And by kind of a problem is really a big problem, actually. And we saw that, like you said, Miles, when you mentioned the turnover, that fumble in the first, drive of the game, whatever our first possession that we had, and he ran right around 70. Rosengarten ran right around him and forced that fumble. And like you said, at that point, it was kind of like Lamar immediately decided and said, I don't trust his offensive line. Us as viewers on our couch, we decided at that point we don't trust the offensive line either. So the game plan, I feel like at that point, honestly changed. And we're just talking about so early in the game where whatever was decided to be the game plan, it kind of shifted at that point. We tried to run the ball. Run game was not working the way we anticipated. Derrick Henry was almost willing himself in certain plays just to kind of get something because he was not getting sufficient blocking. So that's a concern. So we already, in the first drive or two, first half, we've already confirmed our offensive line is a problem. We can't pass block that well. We can't run block at all. I will say the pass blocking did get significantly better throughout the game in that second half. So, we did give Lamar some clean pockets to work with. But the play calling at that point was already so conservative that, we were just kind of dinking and dumping throughout that whole second half when we were just trying to, we were having issues finding guys downfield. I don't know if that was because Lamar guys just weren't getting open downfield. We know that's been an existing problem last season, so that's more of the same. Or if it was just all design plays to get the ball out super quick. But my problem is that we know what that game plan looks like as well, because Patrick Mahomes uses that game plan against us all the time. When he gets the ball out, look how it looks against them. When we get the ball out, look how it looks for us. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, they constantly thrive on matchup problems. Their whole thing to beat you is create bad matchups. And that's all they did literally the majority of this game. I feel like more than half of the time we saw Rashee Rice lined up against a linebacker. Majority of the time, it was Malik Harrison. Some of those times it was Roquan. Some of those times it was Kyle Hamilton at the safety position. But majority of the time, it was on a linebacker. And my consistent problem with the Ravens has always been adjustments. And I watched the press conference with John Harbaugh, and he had the nerve to mention all of these adjustments that they were making. But the most obvious clear-cut adjustment was not being made. That Rashee Rice play, these quick slants across the middle of the field that they were doing, these were all third downs every time. They only did that when they needed a first down and they didn't have one already based from the down previously before. So we're not talking about like rocket science here. Malik Harrison played awful, but what did you expect when you lined him up across from Rashee Rice, who, by the way, is the Chiefs' #1 wide receiver last year? And before this game, we didn't know we were getting out of Xavier Worthy yet. So, that could be debatable going into the next 2 or 3 games. But Rashee Rice is the Chiefs' #1 receiver. What are we talking about? And we're talking about outside of, Travis Kelce also having to deal with, Kyle Hamilton's work dealing with that. And Travis Kelce, the whole game, really served as a decoy. So we're talking about a game where Travis Kelce, all he did was run interference and pretty much got his other guys help to get open and eat. And that's kind of what they did. So defensively, we just did not have a good showing. We did not prepare well for this team. This is a Chiefs team who we have such a long history with. And it seems as though every time we play them, it's not that the result is the same every time, but it's almost like we're not changing the way that we're playing them. It's like the same old story. It's always lack of adjustments. It's always diverting from what the game plan was supposed to be. It's always something. This season obviously is different, and now we have an offensive line that we're dealing with that's a little bit shaky. And I get that you do have to go away from certain things at certain times in the game, but the coaching is just consistently bad. You know, it's one of those things where it's just a shame when you just see a stat line like Lamar had and it results in an L for one man to account for 400 yards of offense, whether it's passing or rushing. It just doesn't make any sense. And the fact that, like you said, he had 16 or 17 carries or whatever, there weren't that many design Lamar plays in that game. It might have been a couple, maybe 3, 4 at the most. I don't even know if it was that many, honestly. So that just tells you, like, we just weren't equipped to handle any type of pressure. And in our last show, I said, my major concern outside of the line being what it is do we have a plan for pressure? And a plan for pressure is going to include, our O-line, which it was already expected that they weren't going to be that good in this game. So what's the plan for pressure in that case? And the plan for pressure couldn't have been dropping back and throwing the ball on the outsides every single play and running Derrick Henry. At this point, you're just praying for one of your stars to go off, and it just doesn't work like that against great teams like the Chiefs. So, like I said, just to wrap this up, learned a whole bunch about the offense, learned a whole bunch about the defense. I think the defense will be fine. I do think those early timeouts was a result of something that the defense had messed up in whatever they called on the field, because they were both 2 defensive timeouts. One of them actually probably saved Mahomes because his microphone wasn't working for one of those, but it's Mahomes. So, I mean, we've seen that happen before, and he come up with his own thing and it still worked. But those 2 early timeouts screwed us. Just imagine what Lamar would have did if he was able to just kind of not be forced to rush that drive, especially coming down towards the end. So just more coaching blunders and stuff that we've been talking about all off season, still coming back to bite us in the butt at the end of games. Wasn't pleased with that. But all in all, if we were going to take a L, I'm glad that we did it that week opposed to down the line in the playoffs, because I'm pretty sure we are going to see them again. Hopefully, if we make these adjustments next week against the Raiders. So, I mean, that's my take. I wasn't that mad, days after the game. But to be honest, talking about it again did kind of piss me off a little bit, just thinking about it all over again. But, we live to see another day.
All right. I feel like I said this like after the game, like I see the upside in this game. Like, I think I came into the game like there's potential for us to lose this. We got a new defensive coordinator, offensive line. We don't know what we have with that. But I'm encouraged by the fact that we had a chance to win the game and we lost the game by a toe, essentially. But I think from jump, I'm in agreement with you all. Like, the players got us in a position to win, but throughout the game, the coaches were taking those chances away, which takes me back to a couple weeks ago where we said this team goes as far as the coaching staff limits them. You all said it. Like, the game plan was it was weird. I feel like we came out with the game plan to set the tone running the ball, and we abandoned it immediately. Like, we talked all off season about, like, we learned our lesson from the AFC Championship. We're not sticking to our identity. And then when you think about it, we had 51 dropbacks in this game. When you think about Lamar had 41 pass attempts and then 10 non-design rushes, that's 51 dropbacks. So we went back and Derrick Henry, 11 carries? Is that what we ended up with? 11 carries?
13, I think. Yeah, 13 carries.
So we repeated the same mistake, because not like we were giving more carries to Justice Hill and trying to balance it out. We repeated the same mistakes against the Chiefs. We got pass happy. We put too much of the weight on Lamar, and we got the same result, a loss. So offensively, like, we abandoned our identity from the jump. If we didn't know, if we didn't know what we had, then we obviously haven't watched the preseason. You know, we should have came into the game with a game plan that was going to be sufficient for us to get the victory. And it looks like we abandoned that when stuff got rough and we started doing behind the line passes. You know, somebody posted a tweet and it really made me really angry about our game plan. And it was, you know, I love the gadgets with Zay and trying to get him as many touches as possible. But can we let him be a damn wide receiver?
Please.
Run a route. Just let him, because he's a route runner with speed. Like that was his thing. He's a great route runner, and we didn't let him be that. We kept getting him the ball in space behind the line, and we didn't get the result we wanted because we abandoned what we chose to do early on. So it was very frustrated. You know, I think, you know, to speak to Corey's point, Derrick Henry is a back that, you know, he may get stuck at different points in the game, but he's going to wear the defense down, you know, with that contact, with that physical running style, and he's going to break some open. You know, there was a couple runs where it looked like he was going to break open, and we look at that fourth down play. He made that happen all by himself.
Yeah.
But you got to have that threat there. You know, in the game of football, when you're going out through the course of the game is dictated by the threats, and the threats are made by sticking to your game plan. Of course, you have to make adjustments, but if you don't establish Derrick Henry as a threat throughout the game, you know, the play action, the RPOs, they're going to be ineffective, and you're gonna find yourself in bad positions. So, you know, it was just kind of frustrating that we abandoned our game plan. We got creatively conservative. So, you know, it was kind of rough, but defensively, I kind of thought with what you said, Trey. It's like we allowed ourselves, and this is inexperience on Zach Orr.
Mhm.
We allowed ourselves to get picked apart with mismatches. You know, Malik Harrison got picked apart, but I think that's the growing pain of having Zach Orr. He's going to go through these growing pains early on, and this team is going to go through growing pains. So I think we have a lot of potential. We have a lot of places to go, a lot of places to grow. But I think we're going to have these lumps early on. But I don't think the team is going to be the same team 17 weeks from now that we were this past week. I think we'll be a much better team. But if there's one adjustment that needs to be made, we need to really get on Harbaugh. There has to be a call down from Bisciotti. Like, you have to get your game planning together. You have to get your game management together, because too many times we wasted timeouts, and it's the same story year after year after year.
Yep.
So I'll say this. I'm encouraged by the potential. I'm discouraged by the coaching staff, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah, another thing too, it's like Corey said about after that play to Bateman down the sideline, they wasted 10 seconds there too. They didn't clock the ball, they just ran another play.
Yeah.
And it was like, y'all aren't ready to run another play. You weren't. And it felt like it just wasted some time. Another thing was just watching, I think during the week, watching teams like the Rams, the Lions, the Chiefs against us, how well that they run their offense, right? And somebody had us on the radio this week, made a good point. And it feels like the Ravens rely too much on their players to just win their one-on-ones. Like, there's no scheming to get open. Like, it just feels like they're not scheming anybody to get open. Because why? Because, I mean, I don't know how many. I'm pretty sure you guys are the same thing. Like, when Kelsey in the AFC Championship game, and in this game as well, but even Cooper Kupp with the Rams and stuff, like, they're not that fast. They're not that fast. But they find ways, because Cooper Kupp runs routes well, and so does Kelsey run routes well. Their coaches scheme for them to get open. They always find ways to get open. And when you got guys like Likely, you got guys like Bateman, you know, for example, who we were expecting to take a step up this year, and Zay, you can scheme for these guys to get open. I guarantee you, if they're on teams with Sean McVay, Zach Taylor, even with the Bengals, D'Amico Ryans and them with the Texans, I guarantee you they find ways to use Zay in a more dynamic way than we've been able to. These behind the scrimmage passes that they did like 5 or 6 times wasn't cutting it. The Chiefs saw it coming a mile away every single time. It didn't phase them. They weren't faked out by it. Ryan Clark even said on I think on First Take, said, when you look at, and we've been saying this for years, when you look at the Ravens offense, and they had Derrick Henry out there. They're running the football. When Justice Hill was out there, they're passing the football. They knew exactly the formations didn't confuse them. They didn't do anything creative out of them. Ryan Clark was like, basically, like, you're going to have to use Derrick Henry on pass plays to confuse the defense, so they don't show your hand every single time. But it's vanilla. Mike Tomlin said this years ago. It's vanilla. They don't do anything creative. Like you said, Travis, like they're creatively conservative. It's amazing to see how other teams are able to use college style offenses or whatever that may be. The spread guy, like they're spread them out, 5 wide receivers, whatever it may be, 5 receivers, including a tight end, and they're able to just scheme guys open. It's amazing how well some teams are just able to run screens, and the Ravens can't. And that's always, since Harbaugh's been here, the Ravens have been terrible at screens. They can't run a screen to save their life. They can't. And it just infuriates me watching, like, we have probably some of the most talented players we've had on offense in a long time, and the Ravens can't seem to find a way to use them. Like, you got Justice Hill in the backfield. The fact that he only got 1 carry, he did get a few catches, but again, it felt like empty calories, right? It didn't really change or affect the game. And again, a lot of it was Lamar just getting the yards by himself. Look, I think we said this, that Zach Orr was going to be. We knew going into this game, Zach Orr was going to be challenged a little bit, and there were going to be some things that he didn't get right. But I think he's a smart enough football player, and he got enough guys on defense with Kyle, with Marlon, and Roquan that they're going to get this right. I agree with you guys. The defense in like 4 or 5 weeks will not look like it did in week 1. They will be a lot more fine-tuned. They will be a lot more like in sync, doing what they're supposed to be doing, and things like that. But yeah, on offense, I'm a little skeptical about what can be done. And it goes to the simple fact that no matter what offensive coordinators come in here outside of Gary Kubiak, this offense has looked the same. With Mark Trestman, with Marty Schottenheimer, with Greg Roman, now with Monken. Because one of the guys on the radio said, when you look at Monken's offense at Georgia, this isn't his offense at Georgia. When he ran his offense at Georgia, he effectively used 2 tight ends. He had Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers, and he effectively used both of them and the run game at Georgia. It dominated. And I didn't really put 2 and 2 together last year. Like, why can't they use Mark Andrews and Leichel in the field at the same time? I don't understand it. I don't get it. And it may come down to the simple fact that while Harbaugh, either the special teams coordinator or whatever, he's still the head coach. And he probably is like, this is what I want to do on offense. Bill plays around that. This is what I want to do. There's a reason why offensive coordinators come here and they don't get head coaching jobs when they leave. We have plenty of defensive coordinators, even position coaches from here that go on and become they get promotions.
Yep.
The guys on the defensive side of the ball always seem to get, if they're assistant coaches or position coaches, get promotions and go to either coordinators or head coaches all the time. But why is it nobody on offense seems to, their career dies here? This is it. Your career dies here as you're an OC. Maybe it's at the end of the day, it's John Harbaugh. And he wants to run his offense. He runs an offense like it's 1995. That's the offense he runs. He likes to run a Cowboys offense from 1995. That's the way he wants to run it. And you can't run that in modern NFL today. You just can't. You just can't.
What do they say? Split V like Novocaine. Give it time. It always works.
Yeah. It's again, they have enough talent to beat most teams. But when we saw the 49ers and we beat the 49ers, but when we saw the Chiefs, Andy Reid he knows how to beat them. He knows how to beat them. I guarantee you the Chiefs when what's his name? Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid, when they get ready for their preparation for this Ravens game, and they probably saw into that game like, oh, they're not doing anything different they did back in January. Same stuff. Okay, we know how to beat this. We know how to beat this. Easy. Man, when they ran that Xavier Worthy play, man, I almost threw something on my TV. I was like, he ran in there untouched, front the 15-yard line. Untouched. They ran it like it was nothing.
It's bad.
But anyway, we'll get to the Raiders one a little bit later. We'll move on to the rest of the NFL this week. So look, all in all, a lot of teams struggled in this game. Players struggled, especially. We got to see the quarterbacks with Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers on their new, I don't say new Achilles. I don't know if it's new or if it's just, I don't know if it's a wire or something down there that's replaced it or whatever, but you can clearly see that they're definitely favoring that leg, both of them. They're not comfortable on their feet. And I was in the Bomani Jones yesterday on his show, and he made a good point. He's like, I think people forget how injuries work, like especially serious injuries. Like the ACL injury years ago used to be career ending. When guys got ACL injuries, career ending, but they've made advancements in the surgery that's no longer career ending anymore. You can get it repaired. Sometimes guys come back even better. Look at Adrian Peterson. Some guys come back even better. But there hasn't been a lot of medical advancement surgery wise with the Achilles tear. Like it feels like once it's gone, it's gone. Like there's not really much we can do to simulate that kind of tension that it takes and everything else that puts the pressure on that tendon. And I think it showed. Like Kirk Cousins it felt like he didn't want to. Most of his snaps were in shotgun or pistol. He didn't take a lot of snaps from under center because that would require him to do drop backs. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. It felt like that, Aaron Rodgers already throws off balance as it is. He always been an off balance thrower. But even I think as the game went along, he got a little bit better. But Kirk Cousins definitely did not feel. I think with the leg injury the way it is, and with how the Pittsburgh Steelers were coming after him, he did not feel comfortable in that leg. He felt TJ Watt was gunning after that man all game. TJ Watt almost had like 2 strip sack fumbles. Like they got called one back because of all sides. But when I look back at that replay, I think in that Falcons game, he timed it right. I think that he timed it just right, but they called him on all sides. I was like, I don't like this Steelers, but that was a hell of a play. Like, he timed that thing just right, but he's like, thought I had it. But another thing, I guess I'll get to the Steelers too as well. That defense is going to be a problem this year. TJ, a lot of it, TJ. It's all TJ.
He's a game wrecker. I've been telling people.
It's all TJ. Like it's not really anybody else.
Player.
I mean, they got Minkah Fitzpatrick and they got a few guys in the middle, but it's all about TJ. That TJ is like the Lamar of the defense for them. Like everything runs through him because he can single-handedly. Like if you need somebody to go just win a matchup, he can go win it and force a quarterback to either make an errant throw or fumble the ball. TJ can do it. He's like, if he's healthy, this defense is. You saw that they won but 6 field goals. Every other AFC North team scored a touchdown in their games that they lost, but the Steelers still are the number 1 team in the division because they kicked 6 field goals.
Boswell.
6 field goals. So we'll start with the Steelers and the Falcons. I think I'll say this just quickly. It makes sense why they drafted Michael Penix. I can see why I think the owner wanted Kirk Cousins, and the GM was like, I'm going to draft Penix because I don't know how long. I don't trust it. It really does feel. It looked like that Kirk Cousins was still healing from that injury. Some of it probably is mental, but I don't think guys really understand, and fans especially, understand how long it actually takes to play football. Like he can probably walk around normal and do regular everyday activities, but playing a professional sport on maybe a repaired tendon that's that important to the leg is not the same. It's just walking around, going to the grocery store and getting out of your bed in the morning. It's very different now. So I think now it makes sense why Penix might be there. You may be seeing him a little bit sooner than people expect.
Yeah. I think you always. When somebody like Penix is on the board, I mean, unless you have like Tom Brady on your team or something like that, it's like you can't pass up on that. As difficult as it is to get a franchise quarterback in this league, if he's on the board and your starting quarterback right now is Kirk Cousins on the surgically repaired Achilles, I don't blame him. I don't really care how Kirk Cousins would feel about that, but he would just have to understand. I mean, you've been floating through this league, signing deals and collecting money. Like you got your bread. Like me drafting a new quarterback, it should have no impact on your feelings whatsoever. All you gotta do is go out and perform. And I think maybe it's the first game back from the injury, and that you're gonna have some jitters. You're going to be a little bit reserved. We saw the same thing with Aaron Rodgers and how he did. Aaron Rodgers was really just trying to fight to get through the game, and it seemed like he's over that hump now. So now his next hurdle will be another thing going into week 2, just trying to repeat that and get more comfortable. I think that's what Kirk is kind of going through the same thing. I mean, we didn't put a whole lot on Kirk's injury because he didn't go out the way Aaron Rodgers went out. So but they're both, like you said, they're both going through the same thing. But you can recover. I mean, look at Justice Hill. I mean, he's a running back, and if I'm not mistaken, he had a torn Achilles as well, didn't he?
Did he have a torn Achilles?
Didn't he have a torn Achilles? I could have sworn he had a torn Achilles. And ever since then, he came back looking faster than he did before he left. So, I mean, it's definitely possible to recover from these injuries, but it's a major component of the mental part of what is the most difficult part to get over, is just like trusting yourself again, trusting your body again, trusting your Achilles again. And I think that's going to be just something they're just going to have to deal with. With Kirk Cousins, I don't blame you, man. I mean, it's your first game back from it, and as soon as you line up for the first time, you're looking across and you see TJ Watt over there, and he's just bull rushing all of your highly paid offensive linemen. He's just bull rushing straight through them, and just he's either hitting you, from all sides of the pocket, and it's just what can you do? Like I don't blame him. I would be, any human would have blown Achilles in the past is going to be timid for that. So it is what hitting you from all sides of the pocket, every side. I mean, just ask Shannon Sharp.
Oh man, we are off the rails already.
But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think I'm not saying that the Falcons are going to be a lot better than what we've seen, because the Steelers do have a phenomenal defense over there. I think anytime, honestly, like TJ Watt, as long as he's healthy on that side of the field, it's going to be a long day for whoever they're playing defensively. To win a game against the Falcons, who has a ton of talent on that team, and to not have to score a touchdown to get that win. I mean, I know they have a phenomenal kicker as well, but it just speaks a lot to TJ Watt and the game record that he is. Kirk is just gonna be a few growing pains in the beginning, but I think him and Aaron Rodgers at some point are gonna get it together. But as far as the Steelers and where I see them going, they're still gonna go as far as where their quarterback takes them. And for the Steelers, I would say, if I was a Steelers fan, I would be pleased with what I saw so far as just going in the positive direction. Fields didn't have a horrible game. I mean, he played, I think, as well as what we expected him to play, for him to, step up and not even really know that he was going to be starting until that weekend. Played pretty well. But yeah, as far as two QBs, I think they'll be fine. I think that Kirk will have kind of a lesser challenge, I think, this week. I think the Steelers as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Steelers are playing Denver, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they'll be more of an indicator of what they can do. And if they do very well against them, they'll have some momentum going into the next, going forward in the season. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think the Steelers are, like, defensively super dangerous. You said it all. Like, TJ Watt is the best defensive player in the league right now. I don't see anyone that's better than him. Offensively, I just don't see it. It reminds me of the old Ravens teams before they won a Super Bowl, and even the year after, where that offense just held them back time and time again. So, like, I really don't see them being like a threat to the AFC North, but I see them being your average Pittsburgh Steelers of late. Like, we probably win 7 to 8 games, but I don't see them being much more than that. On the other side, Atlanta, you better hit the panic button, because you made a lot of great investments this offseason. I'm not talking about Kirk Cousins. I don't consider that a good investment. But defensively, you made these investments, and they showed up. Like, defensively, they played pretty solid. I mean, field goals. 6 field goals. I'll take that. But, like, offensively, the play calling still leaves a lot to be desired. Like, why is Kyle Pitts and Drake London combined for 6 targets? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't. like they still are not getting the ball in the hands of playmakers. And Kirk Cousins, I don't know. He looks like a shell of himself. We'll see what he looks like this week, but I just do not see it with this team from the quarterback position. So, I mean, I think Kirk Cousins has about 3 weeks to see some improvement before they start calling on Penix to come in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially with the NFC South the way it is.
Yeah.
The Panthers are the Panthers, trash. But the Saints, putting up 47 points the way they did. The Saints have always had a really good defense. They've been playing pretty well. But yeah, the NFC South is up for grabs. Like even as well as Baker played, the NFC South is up for grabs. So if you're the Falcons, like you said, Travis, with all the investments you made, even on defense, like you would have thought with a competent offense, they should have beat the Steelers by 10 points. Like you forced them to kick 6 field goals, you should have been able to put the ball in the end zone. But it is what it is, and I think Michael Pace might be getting that number called sooner rather than later.
And look how worse they would have looked without Bijan. Like I feel like Bijan was their whole offense.
Yeah,
like
he was
entirely
catching the ball, he was running. Yeah, he was doing everything.
Yeah, I'm like they're gonna run him into the ground if you got to do all this work every week.
Yeah.
We'll
talk about another game real quick. The Bengals and the Pats. Surprised by the Patriots, man. Look, Gerard Mayo's. They were at home. Well, they were at home, right? They were at home. The Bengals coming into town. Joe Burrow with his bleach hair, trying to be Slim Shady, coming in the game. And there's still a lot of stuff going on, I think, in that Bengals locker room. Not necessarily with Joe Burrow and the team, like Joe Burrow and the rest of his players. I think it's more so with the players in the front office. Because Jamar Chase said that he had food poisoning or whatever, some illness that he had during the game, which is why he didn't play well. And then T. Higgins was dealing with, what was it, a hamstring or something going on? Yeah, and the Patriots ended up winning that football game.
They were in Cincinnati, by the way.
They were in Cincinnati. Okay, they were in Cincinnati. So in Cincinnati, in Cincy, they made a great play at the goal line, knocked that ball out right before across the goal line for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty much the difference in the game there. But I want to ask you guys, I feel like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins might be doing this like kind of what Lamar did. What was that in 2022, 23? Yeah, 2022. When there was kind of like a quasi holdout kind of thing, where if there's any kind of illness or any kind of thing pops up, I can't play, when TK wants a new contract and so does Jamar Chase. And, Jamar Chase literally showed up like a day before the game for practice so he could be activated to play that week. But I feel like they may be going through this all season with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, where they may just be kind of doing these like quasi like holdouts where they just either play half the game or pull themselves out of the game or whatever they may be to kind of prove a point. And they were saying, like Corey said in the chat, about there have been some questions now about Joe Burrow and his arm. There are some questions about Joe Burrow and his wrist because they were saying there's not a lot of zip on that ball anymore. They said that apparently they got to shoot him up with all kinds of stuff in that arm even before the game starts just to get his wrist to feel right. Fans are pointing out him I think he was trying to drink from a water bottle. His hand was like struggling to even hold the water bottle, and they said last season when he got that surgery, the doctors were like, we've repaired it, but I don't think his arm strength or whatever it may be is going to be the same after this with that kind of injury that he had. They said it felt like a baseball injury, and he's just not going to have the same. That's like basically a pitcher who throws like a 98 mile or 99 mile per hour fastball gets that kind of surgery on their wrist, and then their miles per hour drops down by like 7 or 8. They can only throw 90 now, or 89. They can't throw 99 anymore. So it's it's a concerning thing. I think if you're for the Bengals, Corey mentioned it too. James Jones on one of the shows even mentioned like we got to stop. People have been giving Joe Burrow all this bail since he played in the Super Bowl 3 years ago. Was that 3-4 years ago now at this point? He played in the Super Bowl and everybody's been giving him bail ever since. But since then, look, he's been hurt and he hasn't played well. They also mentioned a wreck for Zach Taylor. Apparently they are like one of the worst records in the first 2 weeks of the football season since Zach Taylor has been the Bengals head coach. Apparently, they stink. They stink in the first 2 weeks. I don't know why that is. Like they're like it's like 1-10. They're like 1-10 in the first 2 weeks since Zach Taylor's been head coach there. They don't win they always show up like week 4, week 5. We're like, I don't know, we're counting them out. I don't know they'll make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden they win 8-9 straight games.
they always have this contract stuff going on right before the season starts too over there.
So,
like
but
one
I feel
year
like
was
now
Burrow
with
like that.
Chase and Higgins, especially Higgins looking like he's going to be out the door anyway. I feel like Higgins is going to be like, I'm going to hit free agency, so it is what it is.
Too.
Yeah.
So, and Jamar Chase is like, he's on year 3, I think, of his deal. So he's like, I saw Jefferson get paid. He was still on his rookie deal when he got paid. I saw, these other guys get paid. I saw Amon-Ra St. Brown get paid. What about me? Where's my money at? So, but they said the Bengals are notoriously cheap. The owner is notoriously cheap. I was surprised when they paid Burrow, to be honest with you. But I think this is going to linger for them all season. And it could shake up a little bit the playoff picture and how it's going to look. I think for the season for them.
This is a major issue for the Bengals. Like this is probably one of the most concerning things to any organization at this point, because if Burrow's wrist is really to the point of no return like this, like
it's bad.
I mean, it's just not a good thing, because now you got all of these, like you just mentioned, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Like, how much money are we going to pay these guys not having a franchise QB being able to throw the ball to them? So it's like so many decisions to be made, and they're going to have to fill it out within the next couple of weeks. And like you said, it was kind of like a silent holdout with Jamar Chase and maybe Higgins as well. Well, Higgins not so much, he didn't play for whatever reason he claimed. But we also saw Joe Burrow just without weapons. I mean, look how bad they're hurting. Look how bad they're hurting without Joe Mixon. They look absolutely lost on offense without Joe Mixon in the backfield. And you're asking Joe Burrow to do more than he's ever had to do over there. And on top of that, with this, injury, non-injury, whatever you want to call it, it's just a whole lot of dominoes falling at the same time for Cincinnati. And they have to do something. They have to pay someone. One of those guys, maybe they're going to have to make their pick. They're going to have to maybe pick Jamar Chase or pick T. Higgins, and I think we know which one they would rather keep. But they're going to have to pay somebody, and pretty soon, because obviously the spirit in the locker room is not high. The optimism is not high in their locker room, and the future is in question, just as far as when it comes to your franchise quarterback. So you got 3 major issues. And that's not even including what you lost talent-wise in Joe Mixon and on a defense and everything like that. So they got some issues. This is looking more grim for them than it's looked in the start of other seasons, where we were concerned about players coming back from, Joe Burrow coming back from injury and stuff. This looks worse than that, because it's so many pieces involved with this that it's one move is going to make or break. And this could potentially turn into like even a rebuild if we do find out that something's going on with Burrow's hand and he can't cut the mustard or whatever the case may be. Like it could be bigger than what you think, because if they do somehow aren't able to retain Jamar Chase and retain T. Higgins, it's done. Like you already lost Mixon. You got to rebuild the offense.
Yeah, I mean, they're like you said, they're so close to a rebuild. Like, I think we'll find out by midseason where they're at. Like, if Burrow is not able to start throwing the ball around, because they hyped him up all offseason, like he's back, he got this arm strength. It didn't look like it. They don't look like they're trying to prove it either, because they're not stretching the field vertically.
No, you weren't throwing the ball downfield, so yeah.
But you know what? When you think about all these issues they've been having, what does it remind you of? The Bengals front office has never been put together well. I mean, they've had some good drafts recently, but I mean, when you think about all the chaos they're having with their players, it just goes to show that they're still an incompetent organization that's just run up on some luck. Because I feel like this is my prediction. About 2 years from now, you're going to see Higgins off the team, Chase off the team, and Burrow is going to be just a shell of himself. And that's where it looks like it's heading. As far as the way they looked on Sunday, it looks bad. I saw like what Trey said about Burrow with weapons. They said Burrow without weapons is just Mac Jones.
That's wild.
So,
Damn, that's a crazy.
I don't know if I'm going there that fast, but
that's a crazy drop off.
Yeah,
we saw what he did in college. He can't be that bad.
Yeah,
so
he was. But again, LSU. Who do you have at LSU? Who do you have at LSU?
Justin Jefferson
and Jamar Chase.
And Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
So
good point. Never not had weapons.
You can't be bad when you got two of probably the best wide receivers maybe of their generation on your team at the same time.
Yeah,
this has always been our Lamar argument too. It's like if we can only imagine if we had what these guys had.
Only if. Can you imagine Zay and Jamar Chase?
When you look at the chaos around our division with Pittsburgh, defense is good, but they got an unsettled quarterback situation. When you see the uncertainty around Burrow, when you see Deshaun might have a tape coming out, it's really looking like
video. Yeah, I heard that. We got video. I was like,
yeah, the division is.
He might be.
There's
done.
no reason why we shouldn't win.
I didn't click that link you sent. I didn't know that part.
Don't click the link. Don't click any links.
No, the one that y'all sent in the chat.
Don't click links.
I ain't saw both. Yeah, I'm good.
No, it's yeah, you're right. You think about like every other team that had contract issues with the 49ers, the Cowboys, they got their stuff done. It may have happened the day of the game, but they got it done. Right? Trent Williams got his contract done like a day before, 24 hours before the game started, but they got it done. Bengals still sitting there with contract issues with two of their best players. It's not looking good. And you got your star quarterback now potentially could be career-altering injury in his wrist. The Steelers, let's be real, everybody's like, oh, Justin Fields is going to start until he starts turning the football over. Once he starts turning the football over, Russ going to be out there. They could be switching quarterbacks every 2 weeks. Like, let's be real. Like, the Steelers in their situation is because they're not necessarily married to the idea of Russell Wilson being their future quarterback for the next 5 years or Justin Fields. Like, they're not locked into these guys for the next 5 years. They got them on 1-year deals. They're literally, I think a lot of people are thinking about this like in a macro level, like who should they pick long term? I don't think the Steelers are thinking about that. They're thinking about this week to week. To be honest with you, they're looking at who play. If as soon as Justin Fields throws a bad interception, because there's going to be a game where the Steelers defense isn't on that day. It's going to happen. You can't be on every game, and they're going to have to play from behind. And Justin Fields is going to have to try to throw them back into the football game. And it's what he does. He's going to throw a bad pick or something at the wrong time of the game. And then as soon as that, he's going to get pulled and Russ is back out there. And then Russ is going to mess up and Justin Fields go back out. Like they're going to be going through this all season. I'm going to be married to the idea of anybody being the quarterback for long term. And then you think about then you got the Pickens situation coming up probably next year or the end of this season, where he's going to be going to the 4th year of his contract. And do you even pick up his option? I don't know. Like, as much as we don't like the Ravens, what they're doing right now, they are probably the most stable front office right now. They at least have their contract stuff settled for now until Kyle Hamilton comes up, until Zay comes up, when that comes up. But for right now, they're not dealing with a lot of the internal stuff that's going to bleed over into the field. It's just they got to get right with the coaching and everything else. So, yeah, with the Bengals, the shout out to the Pats, though, man. I did not expect them to win that football game. They played a hell of a game. And, yeah.
Andre Stevenson is a beast. They got a nice running game. They had a good running game last year.
All right. Another game we're going to cover real quick. Browns and the Cowboys. Browns came in with a lot of, fans came with a lot of expectations. I think they saw what we saw before Deshaun Watson got hurt with his shoulder injury against the Ravens. He played well. But, you can't keep your hands to yourself. That's what happens. You can't keep your hands off other people's bodies. They don't want them. That's what happens. You know, you come out here and you try to play football. Like you saw, look, I guarantee you. Like they showed a clip. I don't know if you guys saw during the Cowboys game. Offensive lineman was on the ground and Watson was trying to help pick him up, and he smacked his hand away. He's like, I don't know where your hand has been. Keep your hands away from me. I know where your hands have been, sir. What have you been doing? Who you got over here? I don't know where your hands have been. Get off me. But like, not even being serious here. I said this like 2 years ago when he got traded there. It feels like to me that the locker room has never accepted him as a quarterback there. I don't think they like him. The owner wanted him there because they wanted to make a splash, and they got rid of Baker Mayfield, and they want him there. They felt like Deshaun Watson was going to help get them to that next level. And then when this stuff came out and they still decided to pay him that kind of money, it just feels like to me that a lot of guys on that team don't like Deshaun Watson. It just comes across. They don't like that man. They don't. The fans now apparently don't like him. And then it hurts even worse now when you see Baker Mayfield then in Tampa. He threw 4 touchdowns? He threw 4 touchdowns this past week? Balled out. Yep. Balled out in Tampa. All he had to do was throw to Mike Evans. He knows. Baker Mayfield knows. All I got to do is throw the ball to Mike. Throw him a 13. Just throw it to 13. He's got it. I ain't got to do nothing else. Nothing else. And now they're sitting here with Deshaun Watson stuff, and he's running for his life. Can't go anywhere. He's throwing the ball. Like it was terrible. It looked real bad. They're playing in Cleveland. A lot of people, even the betting lines had, I think, Cleveland a 3-point favorite in this game. At home, you would think the Cowboys coming in maybe a 1-point favorite for the Browns or something. They had them a 3-point favorite, and they got cooked in this game. I think the Browns, like we talked about the Bengals and the Steelers, the defense is good enough for the Browns, right? Defense is good enough. Special teams gave up a touchdown to Turpin. But that offense, they even showed a clip, I think, of Amari Cooper during the game where they came into the huddle and he just shook his head like they got the call in from the offensive court. He was like, like they just look already in week 1 like they don't want to be there. They just look like, can this season be over already? You don't want to deal with this because you already know now with this stuff out, they're going to be asked questions about, did you know about Watson's? Apparently he had this girl over or whatever, and he's just lying on the bed, stomach down, and like he's like, like did y'all know like they're going to be asked these kind of questions because the media is petty. The media is petty because they want a reaction out of players, and it's like, I'm tired of this, man. I'm tired of this. Like you saw how many games they won with Joe Flacco. They were a totally different team when Joe Flacco was out there. Demeanor and everything. They operated completely different with Joe Flacco. It just tells me that they don't like this man. They don't like him. They don't like him at all.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the game itself. I mean, that Cowboys defense beat the dog crap out of Deshaun Watson. That whole entire game. Like, he was running for his life, but he was getting caught in a lot of those, when those dropbacks. Like, I'm talking like they was pile driving him through the ground and weren't calling anything. So it's clearly the league is kind of losing respect overall, whether it be his own teammates, referees. It just did not look good. It was not a good showing. I mean, unless this Cowboys defense is just that for real, we're going to see that in week 2 to see if they can repeat that. Deshaun just looked bad. But it's not just all on him. They kind of all look bad. Amari Cooper dropped a touchdown pass in that game. So he did get one good pass out to him, and it went right through his hands. The team just doesn't look motivated. They don't look like they want to be there. It does look like a team that doesn't kind of respect their leader almost. Like most organizations, they're gonna go as far as where their quarterback takes them. And Deshaun Watson, we've seen him under way more duress in Houston when he was playing for them. We've seen him under way more duress than we've seen even in that Cowboys game, and he's balled out under duress. He's just not the same. He's just not the same player. Post-injury, post-contract, whatever you want to call it. He didn't play great last year, fully healthy when he finally served his suspension, whatever, and came back all those games. Didn't look great. Really didn't look great this week. Browns browning at an all-time high. It's just one of those things. I don't know what they did to the football guys, but they've been cursed. And like you said, Baker is looking phenomenal. and not just this week one. Baker was looking phenomenal to close out the year.
Yeah.
And that's funneling all into this year. Chris Godwin looks like he should have been somebody's number 1 draft pick. Because what I see him do, you would never know that he had a knee injury the way he's running around out there around those DBs. He looks great as well. So, yeah, just another L to the organization of Cleveland is, they made a bad decision, and they're being punished. They're being punished for paying Deshaun all that money. We knew it was going to be some type of fallout from that record-setting QB deal that was completely out of market deal that they paid Deshaun, and we're starting to see those ghosts come back. And remember when Deshaun was leaving Houston, allegations came out. Now, after that first game, we got 2 brand new allegations. It's like it was like they were saving it for the game to see what the result was going to be.
Yeah, basically.
Where we got these 2 brand new, I don't even know what number it is now, but brand new allegations. I mean, we had all of those allegations in the beginning, then the dust settled. We didn't hear nothing.
It was like a dozen. I felt wasn't it like a dozen? Like it was a lot.
It was a lot. I thought it was like almost up to 20.
Yeah, it was a
20
lot.
something. And we didn't hear nothing since then. We heard nothing.
I think the Browns did this on purpose. The Browns did this.
Week 1,
they leaked it to get rid of him.
They were saying, and that's the funny thing, because they were saying the same thing when he left to this. They like, we think Houston did this. We thought the Texans did that. So it's just same old song, same old dance. Browns just browning, but at an all-time high. They're even shocking themselves at this point. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, he got the dog beat out of him. Like, that was just like, Deshaun Watson he's just not a good quarterback anymore. I think, when he got caught for everything, it did something to him mentally.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's just not there. Like, he probably still has the physical tools, but like mentally, I don't think he's there to be able to be a quality quarterback. I think that's out the window. I think he's done. It's a wrap. They need to figure out how to get out of this contract because he's not taking them anywhere. And even the games he played well last year, they weren't like wow games. It was like, okay, now you're an average quarterback.
Right. You look better than you've done in the past.
You look serviceable.
Look serviceable, right? Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at the totality of it, he's still a mediocre quarterback. And, the Browns, they're going to have to make a decision. Like, if I was them, I would cut my losses. Like, if he didn't disclose this to them, cut my losses now, go ahead and run the rest of the season with Jameis. And then you better look to that draft and hope somebody pans out.
Yeah.
Go get Shador. I don't know.
I don't know if you want Shador the way he throw people.
The way he throw it,
I don't know.
Dion ain't gonna let his son go over.
Yeah. But shout out to the Cowboys. They look all right. That defense looks really good, but offensively they look all right.
Okay,
yeah.
Like I think Dak only had like 175. Like the quarterback play, they said. You look at the quarterback play from this week. The top guys, right? Was pretty down. Like it was down all across the board. Like it was a lot of guys weren't even getting over 250, even 300 yards passing wise.
Yeah, average passing yards was 179. I think they said.
I'm going to ask you guys this question real quick before we move on to the next game. Do you feel like that? It feels like that maybe some of these players and some of these teams, especially, may need preseason, at least a couple games, to kind of just get into the flow of things, because the Ravens looked like it. The Falcons looked like it. Even the Steelers offense, the Bills offense for like that first half, like a lot of offenses just looked off. Like they just looked like they didn't know what they were supposed to be doing out there. They finally got it together, but it feels like now for the last few years, the first 3 weeks of the football season are now literally just teams just trying to get themselves together until they look what they're going to look like by the time they hit week 7, week 8. Like, do you feel like maybe that they need to, like some of these teams, especially I think the Ravens is Ravens included, especially, that some of these teams maybe need to have their guys play a few series in maybe the first 2 games of the preseason just to get the flow of the game going? you know, for some of these teams, because they feel like it takes too long. It looks bad when you're propping up NFL week 1, right? We have some good games. Don't get me wrong. We had Chiefs Ravens was a good game. The Lions and the Rams was a good game, but a lot of the games that were in Sunday and the 4:00 games were kind of like, they were sloppy. You know, they were just all over the place. Do you feel like maybe that? I don't know if maybe the next CBA comes up. Maybe the NFL pushes for these teams like, hey, maybe you guys need to play. You need to at least your starters need to play at least a couple series. I
think
the product to be better, a little bit better on the field.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think you know, because the league itself, you definitely want to put a good product out there, and you know, but I think the NFL, once that Thursday night game hit and the Ravens Chiefs, as good as that game was, I think they're satisfied just off of that.
They don't really care about that
starting the week off. and
yeah.
I think that whole thing is just in direct correlation with just how valuable guys are at this point, like what the market is and how expensive it is to, you know, lock guys up in contracts and things like that. The salary cap being risen, it's all in direct correlation to the investment and team just not wanting to risk it. And you know, the NFL, they're adding games almost every other year, and at this point, so it's like they're adding games, and you know, it's costing us more money to keep certain guys. And what, you know, it's just one of those you know, it's a high risk, low reward type of thing. It's like they may or may not come out rusty, but everybody's coming out rusty. Like barely anybody played this preseason, so it's kind of like they're moving towards that. They already eliminated a preseason game, so it's like they went from 4 to 3. They're forcing the roster changes at the end of, you know, those 3 games very quickly, and I just think it's just one of those, you know. In some cases, I don't even think it's up to the coaches. It might be the ownership. Like, no, we're not putting him out there for preseason. We're not doing it. Cost too much bread. So I think it's just direct correlation with that. But I think we had enough good games on Sunday opening week for it to be justified, because a lot of those games started off as blowouts, but by the second half, those were like all 1 score or less games, with the exclusion of Carolina, New Orleans, and maybe one other. But outside of that, yeah, I don't think it's all about the money at the end of the day, and whatever part is going to side with the bread, that's what they're going to continue to go with. So,
yeah, it's kind of tough to say, because like there have been some week 1s back when people played their starters in the preseason, some that were just as equally bad. I think you're seeing just a lot of transition, and maybe we look at free agency differently, because there's a lot of movement this year. You had a lot of holdouts. There's a lot of other factors that I think produced the product we saw on Sunday. So I think, you know, for some teams, maybe they do need to play more in the preseason, but I think we saw a lot of movement in the offseason, a lot of changes, a lot of holdouts that caused this product we saw. So, you know, the Ravens actually look pretty decent outside of the offensive line and the coaching. And they didn't play their starters hardly at all in the preseason, just some of the line. But you saw the Chiefs, they played in the preseason, and they look relatively decent, but not like a big gap between us and them.
Right.
So I think it's just really just going to depend on the team. I don't think there should be a mandate put in place, but I think what you're seeing more is like just all the movement with the players is having an impact on the product. You're not seeing a lot of sustainability or maybe just consistency on rosters from season to season, and that plays a huge impact. So I think that's more of it than anything.
Yeah, but in the era now of guys coming up on contract negotiations, and not necessarily even guys that are due for deals, that they felt they've outplayed their contract. They're like, I want new money. Like, I want new money now. So because it feels like they're giving more of the money up front now. Like those 4-year contracts are really only 2-year contracts, because they're getting that huge signing bonus up front, and then that first year is like majority of the rest of the money, and then the other 2 or 3 years is literally just incentives that they're playing for at that point. They've already paid most of their money. So yeah, some of it feels like Devontae Adams now. Like he's still under contract with the Raiders, but he's already pretty much been paid all of his money at this point. He's like, I want new money because based on what it is. So yeah, I think you're gonna see this more often now. Look at Hassan Reddick. The man hasn't even showed up. That man hasn't even been in the Jets building. All right, and they're probably like $800K now, $800K a game. He hadn't heard a word from him. I think he may hold out for a long time. I think they said Emmitt Smith had the longest holdout. I think he had like 3 or 4 games that he held out for. I think Hassan Reddick may go. I don't think Hassan Reddick wants to be a Jet, to be honest with you. I don't think he wants to be there. I think he's willing to just sit out the entire season and wait till the off season. But speaking of that, the Jets and stuff, we'll get into that. Jets 49ers real quick. Look, I'll give it up to the 49ers, man. Chris McCaffrey gets scratched like 2 hours before the game. There's some speculation that they knew probably a few days before that happened that he was not going to play in that game because he had tendonitis in his Achilles. But Morgan, who ended up being – and Morgan's not even like the backup. He's like the backup. He's like the third guy because the backup was also hurt. And he balled out. He balled out that game. I think that's an indictment, too, on the Jets, man. We've been hearing about the defense for the last 2 years. Even last year, they played pretty well. And they ran that ball however they wanted to. They let this guy come in there and just literally run the ball just down the middle. They ran the ball, did whatever they wanted the entire game. Debo, the same thing. Ran the ball, whatever he wanted to do. Again, Aaron Rodgers, I felt like by the time they got past into the second half, he looked more comfortable in the offense. He threw to Alan Lazard, got a touchdown there. Cedric Wilson did look a little frustrated during the game. He looked a little frustrated. There was an interesting series where Sauce Gardner had pulled himself out of the game for like 3 or 4 plays. I think where the 49ers scored a touchdown on that drive, and he pulled himself out. And everybody's like, why did he pull himself out? And he was like, he had gotten winded or got hit by somebody. I think on a play or he got blocked or something, got the wind knocked out of him. And so he had to pull himself. That's what he said. So, but they said that there's a huge indictment now on Robert Saleh, I think, at this point, because this is a team that you coach defensive coordinator for I don't know how many years. You should have known what to expect from this offense, regardless of who's back there running back. You know Kyle Shanahan. You prep your defenses every practice when you were there against this offense, and it felt like they were just unprepared. It felt like they were unprepared for this entire game. If Brandon Ayuk doesn't drop that touchdown in the back of the end zone, this game's not close. That's not close.
Yeah.
That's another thing. I wonder what they said in the locker room where Brandon Ayuk sat out the entire preseason training camp. That man had a wide open touchdown and just dropped it. I wonder what those guys said in the sideline like. Really, dude? Really? He had a wide open touchdown, just dropped it. In his hands. Like, it was.
He played a terrible game.
He did an awful game.
Yeah,
and I feel like you guys said, because guys have been the holdouts and stuff. Trent Williams, another one who was a holdout, literally before like 24 hours before the game started, had to leave in game at one point because he just needed an IV. Somebody brought up on the radio, but good point. Like, you got to realize these guys are going from playing zero football from the summertime. They're not playing any. They're in practice, but they're pretty much glorified walkthroughs at this point. They're going from that to playing 60 plays. Like, these guys that haven't played in preseason or haven't played, or been in training camp to get their bodies right. This is the first time they're doing this. He's like, Trent Williams, like, he played every snap. I think outside of when the 49ers were on defense, they went and put him back, gave him an IV, and he came back up. He played every snap. But even he held out. He wasn't out there for training camp, wasn't out there for practice. So it's going to take him a few games to get used to it. Mainly with Brandon Ayuk, I think he's not going to be serviceable for at least a couple games. He's got to get used to just catching a football out there. He was out there in his 49ers game, walking across the sideline, doing non-football activities, whatever you want to call it. So on the sideline. Yeah. So I also will say, I think it's very clear that the 49ers and the Chiefs are, again, the 2 best teams in football right now. It's not even close. Like, it's the Chiefs and the 49ers, and there's everybody else. Like, it's not close. Like, their offenses, I will say this, that the 49ers, at least during the regular season, their offense just runs. It really doesn't matter who's back there. Like, it showed, like, while they spend a lot of money on Chris McCaffrey, they can put literally anybody at running back and they can still run their same running offense. It doesn't matter. What was that one year they had? Remember, I think it was, they were down, like, they had 3 running backs that got hurt They literally had to pull guys off the street to play running
Mhm.
back for the 49ers, and they were still able to have a dominant running game because of the Shanahan offense. They're just able to run whatever running back is back there can be efficient every week in that offense. And with Christian McCaffrey's situation, I don't know how long he's going to be out with his tendonitis and his Achilles, because that's very serious. They don't want that thing to tear. This man could literally be out until the last couple games of the season, just to ramp him up to get into the playoffs at this point.
Yeah.
But for on the Jets, the 49ers, again, they look smooth, they look fluid. The Jets, I think the Jets are going to be okay. I think the Jets will be fine. Again, I think we had talked before the show started that Aaron just looked like, just let me get through the game first. Just let me get through the game. You just let me get out of it. I don't want to get hurt in the first quarter again, the first 4 plays. And it was funny because they were counting the plays during the game. That's play 1. That's play 2. They were just like being petty.
Trying to get past 4.
Yeah, trying to get past 4. So he made it through the game. I think that offense will be fine because he's got Aaron Lazard there. He's got Nathaniel Hackett. But again, I think they'll be fine. But also at a point too, I think this team, it feels like it's 2 teams in one. I feel like Salah's got the defense and Aaron Rodgers runs the offense. Not necessarily Nathaniel Hackett. I think Aaron Rodgers runs the offense. And it just feels like if something's going wrong with the offense, Salah can't go tell Aaron Rodgers, hey, we need to go do this. We need to go do that. Aaron's going to do what Aaron's going to do. Aaron has too much control now. He brought Alan Lazard in. He brought Randall Cobb in last year, but I think he's not there this year. But he brought too many of his own people into this offense where it's just like Aaron's just going to want to do what he's going to want to do now. You're literally letting – it's like LeBron and the Lakers are now at this point. You're letting the player run the team. And you're just hoping for the best. So if the defense doesn't play well, which they didn't do Sunday night, if they don't play well, and Aaron just messes up, Aaron's like, whatever, it is what it is. We'll get over it. And apparently, Aaron didn't like the fact that some Jets fans were already criticizing him and criticizing the team. He's like, well, y'all can jump off the bandwagon and stuff. We said this last year when they got Aaron Rodgers there. I don't know if he's ready for New York media. I don't know if he's ready for the New York fan base. The Jets have been waiting for this for a long time, since the 2010s. The Bart Scotts and Rex Ryans were there, when they got to the playoffs and stuff. They've been waiting to get they've been hearing about this team, what this team could possibly be. This team could win the AFC East. This team could be in the AFC Championship game. They've been saying this all over the media, all off season. And I knew as soon as they hit a little bit of a roadblock, Aaron was going to get into his feelings and start criticizing either the media and the fan base. I don't know if he's ready for this. Yeah. Aaron is a jerk. Don't get me wrong. He's a jerk. But it was very easy to get by with Green Bay. Small town in Wisconsin. I don't know if he's ready for New York City. I don't know if he's ready because the Giants are like Deshaun Watson right now. Ass out. They're like Deshaun Watson right now. The Jets is all they got. The Jets are all they got right now. That's it. So they're gonna be there are Giants fans hoping the Jets just do something because New York ain't got nothing right now. So if Aaron Rodgers is already feeling the heat at the week 1, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not I'm not too far on one side of as far as which team the teams being the two. Like I think you said the Chiefs and the 49ers are the 2 clearest best teams. They do both look really, really good, but I still feel like the Chiefs could have been had in that game. And I don't know how much stake I want to put into that 49ers team going up against that Jets team when we had so many unknowns going into the game with Aaron Rodgers. Because with a more formidable offense, I think that game probably still could have looked a lot different. So I'm not ready to crown the Niners yet, even though they did look really, really good. And it is impressive for them to, for McCaffrey to be out last minute, for them to just plug someone in there and be able to give that same production, if not way better than who knows what McCaffrey would have did against that against that Jets defense too. But I will say this, as far as offensive lines go, We already know what Trent Williams brings to the 49ers, but that offensive line as a whole looked amazing in that game. So I'll say that, like, they definitely have one of the best offensive lines in the league for sure. But as far as the game, I think the game kind of played out how I expected it to be honest. It's just hard to put too much stake in it as it being a week 1 game. I kind of knew that Rodgers was going to need this period to kind of, ramp up and kind of get familiar with his offense and kind of get over that mental hurdle that he has. I mean, that's just something that's not going to 100% be complete in one game. So the game kind of went how I thought. It, obviously it was juiced up to be a lot more than, what, for the fans to have higher expectations of prime time and Rodgers' first game back. But it kind of went how I thought. I didn't expect the Jets to win this game. I did probably expect it to be probably a two-score win for the Niners, but I also didn't expect them to be that great on the ground without McCaffrey. I thought they were going to have to go to Debo a lot more, and they did go to target Debo a lot, and they used them, in the run game as well, and also use them as decoys like they always do. But I'm not sure if I'm ready to say they look that great, because I did see other NFC teams that looked even better than that this week. I think the Cowboys still look better. I mean, I know they played the Browns, but the Browns still have a tough defense too, so they was able to get up enough points, to win the game. And the Bucs look great. The Saints played Carolina, so I'm not going to give them any credit for that. We're going to see them week 2 as well. So I think it's still tight. I think this week 1 is kind of like, the dust settles, the excitement is gone. We're still excited, obviously. All season we're going to be excited, but the week 1 excitement is gone. Week 2, I think we're going to start getting to it now. So we'll see.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I think it's going to take a couple weeks to really separate like who's legit and who's just hot right now. That Jets team though ain't good. It ain't good. They don't have leadership. It's just a bunch of guys playing football. I think Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be fighting for his life all season. I don't think he's going to be successful on this team. But on the flip side, I think the 49ers, they're really good. They're really good. Like, I'm not saying they're one of the best teams. I'm not saying they are the best team or top 2 or anything like that. But they're really good. They're put together, but they have stability. And I think that's what separates certain teams when you're like trying to put together a good product, is like they're just bringing the same guys back. Granted, Ayuk had the drama and all that stuff, but they got the same guys in the same system and the same coaches, and there's just stability there. And it reminds me of the old Ravens when they used to have stability. Like, they have stability there, and guys are just able to just pick up where they left off last year. New guys are plugged into the system, and they can be successful. And I think that's what's really separating it right now. So, yeah, I think, the Jets are bad. The 49ers are really good. But I think what's really going to separate over the next few weeks between all these teams is you're going to see teams rise up, except for the Panthers, and you're going to see teams fall off. And you'll really kind of see, like, who are the legit teams. So that's my take on that. I'm not going to hold you too much because, I mean, that game wasn't much of a matchup. I think the 49ers, 10 times out of 10 are winning that game.
No, yeah, I think it's the most important thing I think about these teams that are like Super Bowl contenders is that everybody knows their role and they know it. Like Debo knows there may be a game he not necessarily catches the ball and everything for him literally happens and like he gets a handoff in the backfield or RPO or something like that. But he's comfortable doing that. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. They show one play, I think, where the running back ran in for a touchdown, and like Debo and them come across they're literally lined up on the side, and they just come across the middle to get a linebacker and a safety and create a lane for the running back to go to. Like the blocking schemes, not just for the offensive line for the 49ers, but for everyone, are efficient. It's a true team mindset. It's a true team identity, I think, with the 49ers. The Chiefs included. Chiefs do the same thing, and I think those are the reason why we see those teams seems like every year in the Super Bowl together against each other. They have a very unique, a very understanding of a team mindset, and guys willing to do the dirty work. Guys are willing to do Like even if I don't get 100 yards or if I don't get my 20 carries or whatever, we're gonna unite together for a bigger goal here and try to win a Super Bowl. And I think that's what separates those two teams from a lot of people. I think the Ravens do have that, but I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that, like I think we've said, it's the coaching, right? It comes down to coaching. The Ravens players seem to win in spite of the coaching. Like the talent that the Ravens have on both sides of the ball, they seem to be able to win in spite of a bad play call. Like they can turn a bad play call into something great. And I think that's the difference there. If the Ravens were able to get that coaching side down and you don't have to worry about that, this would be a Super Bowl team. We know that. But we'll move on to a new segment we're going to do for this week. We're going to have the Bell or Pookie. So for those of you who don't know, whoever watched The Wire, Stringer Bell, played by Idris Elba, who was a drug dealer there. So, I'll put this up here for those that are watching in the corner. Put the word out, but we back up. Like it was one of those things that, they were down and out for a little bit, but they made some changes, they made some additions or whatever, and we're back out there, we're back on top. But then there's the Pookies. There's the Pookies right there. So it's like you were doing well, you got yourself together, but that crack keep calling. You keep on smoking crack. You can't stop smoking crack. It ends up being your own demise. So we're going to have our list of Bells and Pookies. So we'll start off with the Bells real quick. Who do you guys right now, as players or teams, have on they're on their way up? They're looking okay. They've made some changes. They're back up. You're on mute, Trace. You talking?
I said that's a good question. I'm trying to remember what I said earlier about the Bells, but I think one that was surprising, and we're just going by week to week. So this is not what Stephen A. say. This is not fluid. This is not
right.
Yeah.
This is
or
this
it
is fluid. This is
fluid. This is fluid.
This changes weekly.
But J.K. Dobbins looked really, really good. J.K. Dobbins looked really, 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 really good. He's coming back from an injury. He's no longer a Raven, but we still support our ex-Ravens here. And he looked good as far as what he was able to do. Now, did he look phenomenal running the ball at the last 10, 15 yards? No. He did what, he kind of did when he was with us. He give you a lot and then he runs out of gas a little bit. I don't know if it's due to the injuries or whatever the case, but he looked good. So I would say individually, J.K. Dobbins, he looked great. I'll give him a bell. Put the word back up, man. They might have a running game, and he got Gus over there to help him out still. And also I would say the Texans, because the Texans as a unit, it's not that they went out and they blew the Colts out, but that was still a tough game. That was a tough division game to open up the season. C.J. Stroud looked good enough. I mean, he did have 2 picks that were reversed because of penalties, so we're not going to talk about that. It didn't count. But C.J. Stroud looks like he has the potential of doing great things. He like I said last year, he was in an MVP race up until he got hurt. So still expecting big things out of that team, and the defense still looked pretty decent, good enough to get that W. So that's another one of my bells as well. Travis, I'll let you throw out a few as well.
Oh, I'm gonna keep mine short and sweet. David Montgomery, what he did in fourth quarter and overtime. I mean, he was a battering ram out there, man. He was just running through dudes. Pause. It was like that was like not fair to the I forgot who they were playing. It was so bad. The Rams. He just completely took over and dominated. I mean, that reminded me of like Jerome Bettis, Eddie George type football. So I'll give it to David Montgomery because I haven't seen somebody run that physical in a while. So big shout out to David Montgomery.
I want to give mine to the Buccaneers in general, just because that they look efficient out there. Like they look like they can go win some games this year. I think we were like maybe to get lucky last year. They were just kind of like, oh, let's just hope we kind of make it towards the end. But this team looks like I know they play in a bad division, but the Buccaneers, at least in that first game, Baker looks comfortable. Mike Evans doing his thing. Like you said, Chris Godwin, like they look like they're going to be a solid team this year for sure. Another one of my bells would be just the Chargers. You know, look, they got a new coach there, Jim Harbaugh, and a lot of old running Ravens players there, and they got it done. Look, they were down most of the game, right? They were down to the Raiders most of the game, and they had two big plays by just J.K. Dobbins. You get your win there. I think Jim Harbaugh. Look, I think people forgot how good of a coach Jim Harbaugh actually is. He's a good head coach. Like he went to the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick as quarterback for 49ers. So I think the Chargers, while they play in the AFC West, it's gonna be a little bit tough to get out of there. They at least show that they can do some things there. In what was it, Los Angeles? Now, I was about to say San Diego, not Los Angeles. But now we're gonna go to our Pookies. I think a lot more Pookies this week. I'll start off with just because he wants to make constantly just talk about the Ravens for whatever reason. Patrick Queen, had like one tackle or two tackles the entire game. There were several Steelers fans saying like, "This is what we paid him for." I thought he was going to do more than this. Like, told y'all. Like,
yeah.
He's okay. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he ain't worth the money he's getting paid. That's why the Ravens didn't pay him. For real. So I'll start with that. And I'll do my next one will be just Daniel Jones.
Good one.
I'll say this: Daniel Jones and the New York Giants front office, including the owner. Watching that, what was it, Hard Knocks that they did for the offseason, and saying how they wanted to keep Saquon Barkley there, and he was our biggest, fan favorite. We want to keep him here, and they said, you know what, go in free agency, see how much you're worth, and maybe we can circle back and we'll talk to you. As soon as that happened, that was a wrap. He wasn't coming back. Goes out with the Eagles, scores 3 touchdowns. First game. Looked like the old Saquon Barkley.
He should have been a Bell, actually.
With Daniel Jones. This man, wild stat that they said during the week, I didn't realize was real. Since he got his contract, he has thrown more pick sixes than he's thrown touchdowns to his own teammates. 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns compared to 3 pick sixes. Pookie. That man's on crack. Giants are on crack. Giants organization's on crack. This will go down as one of the worst blunders by an organization. Compared to what the Browns are doing with Deshaun Watson right now, this will be one of the worst blunders. Paying that man $40 million a year to play like this.
Yeah.
To play this bad.
Yeah, I think the Pookie, definitely a lot more Pookies in this week 1. I think the first one I'm going to get, and that's a great point with the Daniel Jones, because for some reason that slipped my mind. Maybe just because that game I just wasn't interested in. But Saquon should have been on that Bell list too, because he went off, and I still think it's criminal that they allowed the Eagles to even get him. But moving on, Pookie, number 1 on my Pookie list, the entire Carolina Panthers organization, specifically Bryce Young. He ain't it. He's undersized. He's not accurate. He makes mistakes. He doesn't look NFL ready whatsoever. And I almost question now, I mean, we know what he did in college, but just as an NFL scout, like, I guess he was just next man up in the draft, and you just had to do what you had to do. But, man, what a week 1 for him. Did they score any touchdowns in the air? I don't think so. I don't think they threw a 4 touchdown pass. Bryce Young just, he wouldn't be my Pookie pause last year. I wouldn't have put him on this list last year. But this is year 2. And, it is 1 game, but the list is fluid. And this week, he gets the Pookie Award. To get blown out by the Saints, I mean, the expectations for the Saints this year, it's not like, we we expected a powerhouse. To get blown out the way they got blown out, it's just kind of like y'all are in some trouble. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Bryce Young. He almost looked as if I'm not even gonna say regress because he looked this bad last year. Let's just be
Maybe
honest.
he is what he is.
He is what he is, and I think come mid season, they may care about it a little bit more, but they may just have to live with the fact that they've already cemented their last place spot in the NFL this year. It won't be the Raiders. It'll be the Carolina Panthers.
I think that's unanimous on the Panthers.
Yep.
Hey, let's talk about Will Levis.
They created a meme
Not
out of
only,
that
not only
man.
did you play a bad game, but that pick six and then dropping to your knees, pause.
And
like
y'all remember the Mr. Crab, like that whole meme. It's now him. It's him now. It's him now. Like, that's crazy.
I mean, that was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen a football player do in the middle of a play. Like, you just collapse to your knees. Like, I mean, he played bad. I mean, Will Levis may not be it, but he's better than Bryce Young. But
and Malik Willis.
Yeah,
I think he is.
I'm going to reserve judgment for this week on Malik Willis because alma mater. But Will Levis, I mean, he's not it. He's better than Bryce Young. But we're seeing a lot of bad quarterback play. So let me reserve my other Pookie for quarterback play in passing game throughout the NFL in week 1. It was just awful. Like we said, 179-yard average per game. We saw it was just across the board, bad decisions, bad play calling, conservative play calling, drop balls, pause, and then just inaccurate throws. So, like, I'm going to go off topic real quick. I know I shouldn't because I know we've been here for a grip. But for all the criticism Lamar Jackson got for the way he threw the ball at the end of the game, every single quarterback that played on Sunday was all over the place throwing the ball. Yeah. All over the place. It was not good. So the other Pookie is the quarterbacks in the NFL, man. Just bad play, bad passing offense play. That's the other Pookie. I had one more.
Including Jalen Hurts in that one, too.
Yeah, including Jalen Hurts. Deshaun, I mean, hey, man, you're on your way out of there, but you didn't play good at all, bro. Like, I knew you were going to be bad. I bet it against you because I knew the Cowboys were going to win because Deshaun is on the field. And we didn't say that about him 5 years ago.
No.
Deshaun Watson, you have fallen from the footsteps of being an elite NFL quarterback to being an elite predator. So he is the Pookie, and he's getting another charge coming his way. Well, another lawsuit. He's going to give him that $243 million. I mean, he got that contract because he got to pay all these lawsuits.
Yeah.
But I mean, you on your way out of here, buddy. So he's the Pookie, man. Awful.
Can I say one thing about that last Pookie about Deshaun Watson?
Yeah.
Depending on how things go for him, he might be the one Pookie on the list that might actually turn into Pookie when it's all said and done. It's very possible.
He may be Lamar Odom. He might go into a new category, the Lamar Odom. Smoking crack for real.
Depending on how this goes, man.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's so we're gonna move on now. Oh, well, Corey said that Kyler Murray should be on the Pookie list for the comment he made apparently yesterday.
What did he say?
When they asked him about why Marvin Harrison didn't get, I think he had 1 or 2 targets.
Oh, it's not his job to force the ball.
Yeah, he said it was not his job.
Yeah.
He said, I wouldn't say the Bills were taking Harrison away. As a quarterback, obviously you're going through your reads. Sometimes the ball goes to him. That's not my job. Obviously, I have a sense and feel for when guys don't get the ball and when they're getting the ball, but I'll leave that up to the offensive coordinator.
How was your read not to throw open touchdowns?
Marvin Harrison. I drafted his man number 1. I come on the first round draft pick. Whatever.
It's crazy.
Whatever. So let's get into, as we end this show, let's preview this Raiders-Ravens game. So Ravens are playing at home, 1:00 game. against Las Vegas. They've had 10 days, 9 days, whatever, how long it is to rest up, get ready for this game. Injury report's not too bad. Calvin Noy obviously out with an orbital fracture. I think Adisa Isaac is also playing. I think he's gonna maybe make it. I don't know if he's gonna be a scratch. He may be a healthy scratch for this game, but with Van Noy out, he might be playing in this game just because they need somebody else out there. This will obviously be the first home game since Joe D and Jacoby Jones has passed away, so we expect to see probably some kind of pregame ceremony or something for those two. So it'll be a very emotional game coming back home for this game as well. Keys to this game are going to be, I'll say this right now. I don't know how this line is going to play well against the Raiders. The Raiders, if you watch that Raiders game against the Chargers, they played really well. Pretty good defense. It was two big plays by J.K. Dobbins that blew the game wide open. That was literally it. For the most part, the Raiders were doing a phenomenal job. I think they kept the Chargers to like 60 yards rushing for the most part of that game until they gave up those J.K. Dobbins runs. Literally, they were lined up in the box to kind of stuff like a 3rd and short, and they just got beat. They just got beat on one of those plays. Max Crosby against those tackles right now. Max Crosby. When you think of Raider, like a Raider player, Max Crosby is a Raider. Like, he's aggressive, he's nasty, like he's gonna bull rush, he's gonna do like he scares me this week. He's gonna scare me this week just because of how well he plays. And they're gonna line him up against McCary. I think McCary's gonna play right tackle, so they're gonna line him up on that side for sure. And they have a really good interior defensive lineman too as well. They play good defense. Antonio Pierce, they have a different. That team last year, once Antonio Pierce took over, has a different mindset now. You saw them get in that fight with the Chargers during the game. They seem like a really tight-knit group, especially on defense. And what I think what the Ravens are going to have to do in this game against the Raiders, right? This is a beatable team. This is a very beatable team. But it can get very out of hand very quickly if they don't watch themselves. Now, Gardner Minshew is the quarterback there. He's last time we played him last year. I think we lost to him last year. We played the Colts. Played the Colts. He has good escapability. He has a good way of getting out of contact, and got almost always. Again, he had opportunities in that Chiefs game to make plays, and he missed them. And this is another game where you can't let Minshew, beat you. Literally, you can't. You got to force him to make turnovers. They're going to have to blitz. I think you're going to have to see maybe some more of this. I know Arthur Millette is out, but I think we didn't really see this a lot in the Chiefs game. But maybe you're going to start seeing more of that nickel blitz package. Maybe a Bo Braid a little bit, or Darius Washington. Somebody, in this situation to blitz the quarterback, to put pressure on Gardner Minshew. They've said that he struggles when it comes to this kind of pressure. So they're going to have to do that. I think the defense will play better in this game. I think Roquan and Kyle and them, they're going to play better in this game. They don't have a lot of threats on offense. They have some speed guys, but not necessarily anybody that's gonna, take the game over, so to speak. So again, it's a winnable game. On the offensive side of the ball for the Ravens, though, they can't play like they did against the Chiefs. I feel like they're gonna have to be a little bit more aggressive. Play action pass, RPO. I don't know if we saw any of that in that game last week. I don't think we saw any play action really. We didn't see any RPO, and I think that's really how this Ravens offense is going to be most effective. You got to have the threat of the Derrick Henry potentially breaking 20, 30 yards. You got to have that threat. Lamar Jackson, with how well J.K. Dobbins was able to get past that defense, if they're going to stack the box like that, and if the Ravens can run an effective RPO game, Lamar could have another 100-yard rushing game in this game. Easy. You could easily have another 100-yard rushing game in this game. You got to get Zay involved more past the line of scrimmage. They can't just utilize him either in screen passes or 50 yards down the field. They can't keep doing that. You got to start getting this man involved 5 yards, 7 yards, 10 yards. You got to start getting him the ball in the shorter intermediate passes and let him work. It worked they can do it with Likely. Apparently, we saw that. We saw Likely turn a 5-yard pass to a 40-yard touchdown. Zay Flowers is one of the shiftiest guys. They call him did they call him Joystick? Is that what they call him? Not him. They called him some kind of game nickname character, whatever it was. But the guy is shifty. Let him in
Yeah.
open field. Let him do his work. I think, again, we said this last year and probably the last couple of years since Lamar's been there. They are making Lamar make the plays instead of letting the players make plays for Lamar. I think that's the big. You have enough playmakers on this offense. Let the guys make plays for Lamar. Lamar doesn't have to throw it 50 yards and 60 yards each time for these guys to make plays. You can do these 7, 8, 9 yard, 10 routes. These guys can turn it 30 yards and 40 yards. You've got playmakers. Go ahead and do it. And again, I think trying to play straight up offensive line, trying to play straight up and backpedal and just play straight up that way and pass pro is not going to work for this defense. This Raiders front line is very aggressive. If they're going to have Lamar go back like that, and he's going to be playing like he did against the Chiefs, and he's going to be just scrambling for his life, trying to get out of pressure and try to throw the ball downfield. They're going to have to do some bootlegs, play action pass, move the line of scrimmage a little bit, or do something, zone runs, something to keep this offense moving in a different direction. Playing straight up and letting Max Crosby just beat McCary or beat Stanley on the outside is going to cause problems for this Ravens team. So I think it's going back to we said this when Flacco was here. Play action pass is their bread and butter, but they for some odd reason don't do it every week. They don't do it every week. Stick to what works. Stick to what works in this offense. I think also too what they need to do is they maybe need to bring the wide receivers a little bit closer to the offensive line. I think they're a little bit too far spread out. This line cannot protect for that long. These plays are taking too long to develop. The plays are taking too long to develop downfield. Well, Lamar doesn't have time. The play breaks down. The guys are already out of their routes, and then they're just trying to find somebody to get open. They're going to have to do a lot more short and intermediate stuff that's a little bit more closer to a line of scrimmage, more mesh plays, more drag routes, something like that, just to get these guys get the ball in their hands and let them handle business. Again, I think the defense will be fine because they're playing a lesser offense than they played against the Chiefs. And I think Roquan and Kyle and them are professionals enough that they can fix this. That offensive side of the ball, though, I think if they don't get it, if they don't act right in this first half, this game could be like I think Travis, you called it when we were talking about the schedule. This could be the Harbaugh game. This could be a Harbaugh game very early where they get trapped and they get confused and they don't know what to do. And then this game's a lot closer to when it needs to be.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep it quick. Just as far as Ravens, as far as this game this week, I just think we need to stick with the game plan. We need to put an effective game plan in action and kind of try to stick with it and not abandon it at the first sign of trouble. I think my number one concern is Max Crosby because my number one concern is our offensive line and holding up. So if we can have some type of plan together, whether that's supplementing Patrick Ricard or keeping Derrick Henry in the backfield longer to even support us in pass protection, I think that'll be a good move. But like you said, getting our receivers down, open in space, getting them downfield, receivers getting open. We got to make plays for Lamar. We can't have Lamar playing Superman ball every single week. And I just think if our coaches can kind of help support that, we'll be fine. Like you said, with the defense, I think the defense will be okay. That's week one. I think they've had time to review tape and kind of figure out what they're going to do. We already saw what some of the mistakes were. I think we were one blown touchdown away from winning that game almost. So we identified what that mistake was. It was Kyle Hamilton. I don't think that's something that he's going to repeat on a weekly basis. And we just got to be smart with the football, stick to the plan, and hopefully not force Lamar to run 16, 17 plays off of just scrambling for his life. If we have design runs and things like that, I'm fine with that. But we got to do something now that we got Derrick Henry there. We have to make the defense respect both of them and not just have Lamar running all around the field and having Derrick Henry on the sideline. I understand at the end of games he's not going to be, in those fast-paced situations, but we got them both. If we can execute and utilize both of those guys early and often, I think we'll be fine. We'll be better off. The box will either be loaded or it won't, and depending on what they do, one or the other of those guys are going to be able to make a play. But, yeah, we got to get our receivers downfield. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, run the ball. Run the ball. I mean, they gave up all those yards to the Chargers. I think we're in a position where we can really hand that ball off to Derrick Henry, take a little bit of the load off Lamar Jackson, but run the ball, establish the run, be very physical with this team. And I think defensively, you're looking at a Raiders team, they're in disarray. I mean, the leaked audio of the reporter saying that Gardner Minshew is going to get destroyed by the Ravens or whatever they said. And then Devontae Adams is clearly unhappy. The team is in disarray. So I think defensively, like, we can take advantage of the fact that this team really doesn't know what they want to do offensively right now. We can just truly dominate, get some turnovers, and offensively just keep the defense off the field. Have some long drives. This team is at its best when it has a balance, initiated by the run, but a balanced offense that can have the 5, 6, 7, 8 minute drives. That's when this team is at its best. So I think that needs to be the approach. That's the game plan. Take your shots downfield, but establish the run. Minimize the contact that Lamar receives this week because, he's sore and we need him to last 20 weeks. So that's going to be the game plan. Keep it very simple. Start with the run. Keep it balanced. Defensively, be aggressive. I'm fully confident in our pass rushers after they had to deal with the referees last week, having a great game. And I hope to see some turnovers this week.
And hopefully we can recruit Devontae Adams in this game. Maybe we can recruit him over here.
Have DeCosta be on the sideline, right? No, I think that you're right, Travis. I think that they're going to definitely need a couple drives, 2 or 3 drives, maybe in the second and third quarter, where they just bleed the clock. 8, 9 minutes, 13 plays or so. You're going to have to keep that defense on the field, keep them tired. That's how you stop Max Crosby and those guys from really blitzing Lamar Jackson. Because we know last few years, no matter what percentage each team has for blitzing or blitz ratio each week, every time they play the Ravens, it's the biggest they've had all season. The most time any team blitzes is against Baltimore. So, all right, before we get out of here, what are our predictions? What's our scores? I'll let you guys go first, and I'll finish last.
I think I'm going to go Ravens are going to win this game. We're at home. Very emotional game with Joe D passing and Jacoby Jones. Hopefully they do like a nice little tribute to them. I think the Ravens are going to beat them solidly. I think it's going to be 28. I'll say 28-13. I think the Raiders only get 1 touchdown out of this one.
Okay.
I don't think it's close. 38-10. I don't think it's close. This team is the Raiders. I think we're a way better team than the Chargers. I think we come out first home game. Huh? No. I'm saying we're a better team than the Chargers. And
because they played last
Raiders
week.
only scored 10 on them. But I think we dominate them. I don't even think this is close. I think that team is in so much disarray. I don't see them doing much against us. If it's any closer than that, then I'm starting to press the next button of worry as we go into the next 2 weeks. But I think this isn't close. I think we dominate from the start, and it gets ugly, and then we get Lamar out for the fourth quarter. I'm a
little bit more, I guess, pessimistic about this game just because the Raiders defense is really good, and just because I don't know, it's the Ravens home games haven't been what's the word I'm looking for, bulletproof as they used to be. Like the Ravens usually at home, fully dominating. They've lost some games at home to teams they shouldn't be losing to, and I think they're winning this game, but I think it's 20-16. I think it's a little bit closer than it needs to be, and I think a lot of us are maybe looking at not necessarily the panic button, but we're like, all right, maybe there needs to be some trades need to be made before week 8. There needs to be something that needs to be done to get this team to the next level so we can compete with the Chiefs. But yeah, again, that's it for us for today. Thank you guys for listening to us, and we'll keep that Pookie Bell segment going each week. Again, that's fluid. It changes each week, but I'm pretty sure Deshaun Watson will be on there every week. I can guarantee it. Deshaun Watson will be on there, and Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young and the Panthers might be on there every week. They have a permanent spot on that list. So thank you again for watching. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.